A very good evening to you, viewers and listeners. And you're welcome to your favorite show, The Voices of the Millennials, right here on Love the Afrobeat Talk Music Radio. You are welcome, and we are glad to have you here with us. Tonight, we will be discussing the role of millennials in community development. Yes, the role of millennials in community development. And of course, I have my regular panelist here with me, Michelle Cobblah, who will be discussing this with me just for you to have an idea of what millennials can actually contribute to make community great, make community a beautiful place to be, just basically community development. So we hope that you enjoy this episode tonight, as you always do when you join us right here on Love the Afrobeat Music Radio, Voices of the Millennials. My name is Annamaria Amissah, as always. Welcome. Michelle, how are you doing? How was your day?
I'm good. My day was great. I'm surprised by the weather change. Did not expect it, but it's Canada, so we're used to it.
Yeah.
I'm ever ready for it. How was your day?
Right. So tonight we want to discuss the role of millennials in community development. I believe that community development is a platform, a place when millennials create that conducive space and environment for themselves to be able to thrive, for themselves to be able to get the opportunity to contribute to the general development of the community in terms of inclusivity, culture diversity, advocacy, and all of that. What do you think community development is, just for our listeners to follow the conversation?
Yeah, I think community development, you can create a community in every space. I think whether it's your workplace, whether it's in your social settings, even within your friends, you can create community. I think in the context of today's conversation, it's more about social and economic development, and whether on the local level, whether on the national level or even international level at this point, because I believe that there's been a general acknowledgement with regards to youth, and even when they say, like, we can limit it to millennials and Gen Zs, and the impact that they leave on the community these days. So I believe that today's conversation, the context of community development we're going to be speaking to, is spaces, both spaces in the local, national, and international spaces that have been created to foster development. Yeah, Anne Marie, I think you're muted. You might want to check that. Okay, you're back. Oh no.
Muted.
Yes, you're back.
Okay. So when it comes to community development, when it comes to millennials, the other generation, as opposed to we the millennials, it seems that we have been put at an advantageous position because apart from generally being a very active generation, a very innovative generation, we also have had the opportunity to leverage on things like technology to make our voices heard even wider whilst being at one space and all of that. These are some of the advantages that we've had as a generation as against the other ones. But really, how far has technology taken us, the millennials or this generation, in terms of community development? What's your thought on that?
Okay, so I think to answer the question, we might just have to retract a bit, to acknowledging that over the years, young people have had more visibility in taking on leadership roles when it comes to like various initiatives. I was listening to like I think about last week there was a UN summit, and there was a youth empowerment young lady who was just speaking about um, the acknowledging that yes, youths have been recognized in these spaces. We hear a lot of, oh, we want to hear a lot of fresh voices. We want to hear the new perspective of young people, which is true, because they're the generation going to, they're the next generation. But another thing that was also being pointed out is beyond just hearing the youth as fresh voices, as a different perspective, as I guess like First Blood to say, there's a lot more in terms of partnerships that can be fostered between the young people and organizations, young people and whether intergovernmental organizations, whether private sectors, whatever the sectors, whatever spaces, young people have something to offer beyond just sharing these ideas, but also implementing these ideas that are being shared. When it comes to technology, I believe that young people um, have made really big progress when it comes to that because of the advancement of technology. You would see a lot of young people reuniting in different spaces. Never have we seen advocacy um, ever so I guess, visible, loud, magnified, and that unity fostered between people, all millennials all over the world. I can voice out a number of like initiatives that have been how that have been magnified. A lot of support that has been provided through technology. For example, now there's a lot of even funding. For example, like GoFundMe has been a really huge platform to mobilize funds, for example, to help young people to 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 um to have, I guess, some hope for their projects that they even kickstart. Like sometimes I go on and I see, oh, like support this kind of initiative, and people are realizing that through technology we can even there's avenue for hope when it comes to some of these community and social development initiatives. I also believe that technology has also increased let me say the opportunity to research, the space for research for young people, for example, because you get to see what others are doing in other parts of the world, and also study from those, and also incorporate that into the whatever you decide to do for your community, for example. And there's a lot of leadership on the internet now, because of because this technology has been created to provide a lot more information, research, and collaboration between people like millennials all over the world. So I believe definitely we can't we I believe definitely technology has played a big part when it comes to community development and millennials, and I believe that to a large extent we are utilizing this technology in a good way. I mean, there are a lot of I guess to everything there's a bad and a good coin, but I
Mm-hmm.
would like to say that, like, to a large extent, I think and I believe that, and there's evidence that technology has helped young people to play a significant role in community development. How about you, Mary?
I think the most notable one that I remember
Yeah,
is the Black Lives Matter. I mean, it began as a hashtag,
yeah,
and then it blew. And I think it didn't only start something like that. Like it was a global thing. It raised like really a lot of attention and
yeah,
allowed a lot of other initiatives to follow suit because it gave hope that technology is can be used positively to
yeah,
impact like positive initiatives and all of that. I remember I'm trying to think through an online initiative that I have been a part of, but I nothing is coming to mind right now. So I probably haven't been part of anything, except I mean there was a GoFundMe initiative that was started by my school because one of my classmates was sick and they were trying to raise money
Yeah.
for her surgery. So that was a GoFundMe initiative that was started. But basically, I have like followed. I'm not the one that initiates them, but I've actually followed and
Yeah.
realized how immense, that kind of support that millennials can give to community in terms of whatever initiatives that they are trying to follow, that they are trying to push. I think in Ghana there was a part where doomsaw had become light outs, power
Yeah.
outages had become like very, very rampant. It was becoming like unbecoming. It was just too much.
Yeah.
And all the youth, most of them millennials, did do and they started a campaign online, and
Yeah.
then they climaxed it by going to converge somewhere, to push the agenda, to get government to listen.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a beautiful thing, because you just sit back and you see what young people are doing, especially our generation, and you see the power that we have, you
Yeah.
know to get things to work. So I
Yeah.
mean, basically,
No,
technology is definitely.
no, that's true. I think there's been a lot. Like, for example, even in Ghana right now, free the protesters. I don't know if anybody's like people are
Yes,
following what's going
yes,
on with the Galamsey issues. I
yes,
think even here in Toronto, I can think of like examples about like rentals, renting people realizing that housing shouldn't just be for profits, housing not for profits, but it's a human right. People deserve shelter, for example. I think Free Palestine has been definitely magnified through what's it called, through social media, for example. I think that, and also people realizing that media, traditional media outlets, for example television and radio alone is not sufficient, but realizing that social media is also a really good outlet for people to also what's it called, to also voice out what is on the ground. That has
yeah,
definitely given a lot of agency to young people, and it's also created tangible support, because like I said, beyond just acknowledging that these things are happening, there's a lot of support lines, there's a lot of helplines. I know that there are a lot of helplines, for example, like, oh, you can call this number if you need help, to like assistance to speak to somebody, just that emotional and psychological support. There's also monetary support. There's a lot of campaigns that are encouraging donations to help provide basic amenities for certain people. Like, I remember, like, there was a I've donated to a number of campaigns that are providing healthcare support for people in these war pro zones. For example, even right now, I can think of like there's a lot of support going out to like Florida, and because of the hurricane that is coming up. So I think that there's a lot of support that is available through these social media, through these technology outlets. Also
yes,
beyond that, it's also encouraging people to start new things. Like, example, like, before, you think that, oh, if you had like an idea or something, you might not have people to latch onto to provide support. You'd be looking at
yeah,
probably a government to see you to provide support that you need. But now, hey, you can actually like launch a platform, share it, other people will share it, people will donate to the cause to help you um kickstart the projects that you have. There are a lot of people who have started apps, for example, that have boomed through like marketing, from just sharing it on social media, creating a post, and getting other people to share it. So I think that is definitely community has definitely been created through technology, that has given young people a boldness to dare greater programs, to explore what the potentials that they have, to explore the ideas that they have, to also what's it called, to also advocate for themselves, and then also to like foster that community with around the world for
yeah.
when people are going through certain struggles. So definitely, I
There's
think we can never
there's
understate
really
that.
no excuse for young people these days.
Yeah.
Especially with the opportunities that are available through technology. There's really no
Yeah.
excuse, because gone are the days when you could say that, oh, I really have the idea to do this, I really have the idea to start this, but I don't have the visibility or the money to push the idea, because
Yeah.
right now there's really no excuse. The
Yeah.
platforms are there.
Yeah.
All you need to do is actually invest in reading and finding out
Yeah.
more of how you can actually
Cater yourself. Yeah.
utilize. And I think I'm guilty of that. I need to learn how to like really utilize social media, because I'm there, but I'm not really
Yeah. Active on it.
utilizing, yeah, active on it. The things that I could do, I don't really know how to do it. And I think that it's a learning journey that young people need to
Yeah.
concentrate on, because there's so much that you can do, there's so much that you can gain. Until you start, you will never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's exciting, and it gives hope. It gives hope,
Very.
because before there was nothing like that, and the complaints from young people were very, like, really too much. Because
Yeah.
if you listen to their perspective, indeed there was no opportunity, there was no hope, there was no kind of like opportunity for them to do what they needed to do, unless
Yeah.
they had the money. But now
Yeah.
the opportunities are there. So young listeners, if you are listening to us, you have an idea, you have an initiative, just do your homework by reading and finding out how best to utilize technology to be able to push whatever initiative, whatever idea you have forward. And trust me, once it's a good one, you will definitely get the views, and you definitely get people to support that initiative once you start it. So yeah, that's it for you. But Michelle, there are challenges to everything. Like you were saying, there's a
Yeah.
bad point to everything. There are challenges to a lot of things. And when it comes to these community development initiatives and efforts, most of the times you realize that one of the major challenges that always, always, always pops up is funding, especially when you the generation that needs to support you feels like your initiatives may be too unconventional, or you trying to translate your digital ideas and activism into real life. You realize that, okay, you might be a little limited if you don't get the support that you need. Funding has always been a major issue for everything. Getting to government institutions, trying to get the attention is not an easy peasy, even though, I mean, perseverance and consistency might get you there, but it's not as easy as it is. What do you think that are some of the biggest challenges, I mean, amongst funding, that millennials face when it comes to leading community through development efforts?
I think that um it's very these platforms are there, but it's not without challenges. It's definitely encouraging than the story was before, but it still comes with its own challenges. But I think one thing for sure, like you said, perseverance and consistency, and also just being entirely knowledgeable about what you want to, the initiative that you want to kickstart, for example. Um, I think that there's a lot of there's strength in unity when it comes to some of these things. Sometimes you might think of something, and there really are other people. There's a saying that there's nothing really new under the sun, because with everything, there's almost always somebody who's also started something. Maybe it's not as magnified, but it's something in alignment with what you want to do. And so, most of the time, creating that unity, or creating that um being aware about the other people who are doing something similar to what you're doing, or in line or around the idea or initiative that you have, kind of helps to build solid, I guess somewhat solid argument to get funding forward. I think most of the time one thing that is a limitation when it comes to funding is people are not as convincing. How do you get convincing? Is by being knowledgeable about what you are pitching. I've had a number of, like, I've listened to there are a number of what's it called, platforms that give opportunities for young entrepreneurs, for example, like to share their idea to get a certain amount of funding, for example. But sometimes people come on and you see that certain teams are more prepared than others, and usually and almost always those teams are the ones always going to gain the funding that is available. I think Toronto, for example, has a lot of entrepreneur spaces that give funding. For example, people don't know that local communities have these opportunities, for example. And so if you don't have that knowledge, there's no way you can tap into those resources. And so I think that gaining that knowledge about the community spaces that you have available to you, for example, is really, really important. There are a lot of non-governmental organizations that the government gets that apply for funding every year, but sometimes they don't even get enough applicants in the pool for the funding that they have. But if you educate yourself and find those spaces, do your research, you realize that there's a lot more funding available to for those kind of initiatives. For example, a second thing that I can think of that kind of limits people's funding is beyond research, of course, is I guess sometimes the how will I even say it, um the I guess cohesion with and I'm trying to find the right vocabulary, but I'm trying to talk about the what's it called? Not trying to do the things alone, doing the things with other community
Okay,
members.
so collaboration and
Collaboration, yes, that's
partnerships.
the word. Collaboration. I was trying to and partnership. Um, Collaborations are really important in the sense that it's a community that you're trying to develop, and so realizing that you need to foster that, like, collaborations between people doing certain things that you're also doing definitely helps to improve your chances of funding. And sometimes those people also let you know what their struggle has been in the market. That also will kind of help you to also navigate some of these funding. The next thing would be mentorship that I can think of. We don't often use. I tell people all the time that if you have somebody that has failed 5 times, that person can even be a better mentor to you than you ever imagined, because there's a lot of wisdom in their failures. And so realizing that you need a certain mentorship is really, really important to help you gain some of these funding. Who are you associated with when it comes to these community things? Because sometimes the person that you have, with one phone call, for example, you can just get this thing done. Are you reaching out to the spaces? How many people, for example, with this show that we have, how many people actually reach out and want some of their ideas to be magnified, for example, or have maybe a certain initiative? Today we're talking about community initiatives like this, for example. I'm hoping that people will reach out with questions, with and when seek support, that we can also help them beyond just giving some of this information, to actually fostering certain supporting some of these community development initiatives that people have. And so I think that finding those finding communities that encourage whatever you're looking for or you're looking to promote helps, definitely helps to get funding. Let me give a practical example. For example, if you want to maybe you realize that, for example, maybe the bus system or the road system in your community is not that efficient to some extent. You want to write a letter to your local community, or um you want to um you want to prepare, I guess, some sort of like business proposal to share with your community leaders. You need to research on where you're even addressing this letter to. For example, you need to make sure that before you write the letter, you've done your research. Has there been any initiatives that were already started that fell along the line? Were there any initiatives um that are ongoing? Is this something that your local government is even thinking about? And then you write some of these letters. Before you write the letter, you want to make sure that somebody with a certain has can also proofread it for you. For example, other people in the community can also sign this letter that you're writing, for example, to show the power of what you're doing and the importance and the significance of what you're hoping to do. Are you knocking on doors and asking people to join in this initiative that you want to start? So something like that, if you take it to the local government, they know that you have put in the work, you've done your research, and then you also have mentorship to help you implement some of these things that you're hoping to that you've shared in the letter that you have, for example. And so I think that it is very, if you send it and you probably don't get a response, send the letter again. That's where perseverance comes in. If you
Yeah.
realize that, okay, these letters are not doing the good thing, start a peaceful protest. You, after all, you have the right to. And so I think that there's definitely room when it comes to there's definitely room for community initiatives and the implementation of these things. um Also, one thing I wanted to mention, don't be afraid to take on these like leadership roles. For example, if you see that there's a lot of community spaces that where people, you're able to voice out some of these things. If you don't have one in your communities, kickstart one, and get people together, get people together. That will definitely help push your gain whatever funding that you're looking for example. So I think that there's definitely a lot of ways around gaining funding or improving your chances for funding when it comes to these community initiatives. I don't know if there's anything more you want to share, Anne Marie.
Yeah, I mean, when you were speaking, it reminded me of the fact that mostly young people like to be the owners or founders of ideas, and so they forget that collaboration and partnerships is one of the easiest thing to fall on when you're actually starting something. I think the idea of being the one doing it and being the one in the spotlight, not wanting to share the spotlight with anyone, is really what is actually crippling, the ideas and the initiatives and going forward with whatever it is that you want to do. So I think that as we are discussing how we can overcome these challenges of, not being able to put forward efforts, developmental efforts in our communities, we need to understand that even if the idea is yours and you have a collaboration or a partnership, it doesn't take that away from you. You would
It doesn't.
still be the founder, you will still be the person who started the initiative or born the initiative, and your name will still be there. So, young people, let's just, understand the concept of collaboration, because it's actually important. It's actually what will let you go far. I remember that in when I started practicing as a journalist earlier, there was the news network, TV3 News Network. They brought in a segment called My News, and the idea was that they were allowing people. You didn't have to be a journalist to be a part of it. Just people in communities to film something that was wrong in your community, and then just write an email to add to your video and send to them, so that the editor would know how to present it. So for example, if there was a lot of people throwing garbage at wrongful places, you just take a video of what was happening, just write a short script to say that, okay, this is a video where people are just using throwing out garbage in places that are not right, and you think that it is not helpful for the community, so you are reporting this so that they can amplify it on their news network, and obviously change, you are instigating a change in your community. Because once you find yourself guilty of that, and you are watching it, and you can actually see like refuge or rubbish that you threw out yourself, then you'll be able to see that, okay, people are watching, and so I'll do right by my community. And I think that it was a beautiful initiative. So
Yeah.
for me, as a young journalist, I had just started my career. That was my place to be. I was always scouting for community issues, and then I would just video it, write an email to it. And the beautiful thing is, after that, they write your name under that the news is coming
Oh.
from you. Yeah. If you don't want to, then
Mm.
yeah. And it was just beautiful. And I felt like, okay, I was part of community development because I was able to bring out issues in my community, and they were being projected and they were being solved. So this can be an example of a partnership with a TV network to make my initiative actually known. And
Yeah.
so this is what we are talking about. So just hashing that we can overcome these challenges through persistency and collaborations. Collaborations is very important. It cannot be underestimated. So we need to tap also into alternative funding streams like partnerships that are socially, conscious, crowdfunding,
Yeah.
other types of funding that, are available to us, and to be able to show that we can build coalitions across different ages, even different generations, and just have a shared goal and push it,
Yeah.
for our very own benefit. So, I mean, basically, we can't say enough. I think we have crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's on this point. So, what opportunities do you think that? Well, the opportunities that are uniquely available for us today is
Mhm.
still technology. We've discussed, we've spoken about it. Definitely, definitely, those are the opportunities that are available for us to be able to do, to push any agenda that we wish to push. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Technology and partnerships, and just being able to do your proper research to be able to
Yeah.
push your idea forward, and all of that. Do you think that still on partnerships and collaborations, our older generations, our older generation, because they are older, they have the connect, they have the experience, they have um good perspectives, they can be mentors and everything. But do you think that the collaboration between the older generation and us is existent, and is something that our generation, for example, can really leverage on? Is it a reliable connection that we can say that, okay, we can leverage on these older generation to be able to bring forth fresh ideas and push fresh initiatives?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a firm believer on never disrespect the experience of the fathers. And it's something that I hammer on all the time wherever I go. If there's a blueprint for something, why invent one? It's something that I truly believe in. And so I think that there's definitely a huge role that the fathers play through experience. And when I say fathers in this context, I'm just speaking about the older generation in general. If you anybody, like, the story of 7 Up, for example, it was the 7 Up drink. The reason why it's even called 7 Up is because he tried 6 times and he failed, and the seventh time is when this actually bloomed up, and that's why it is called
Oh,
7 Up. Yeah.
really?
So
I didn't
yeah,
know this.
literally why it's called 7 Up. And so I think that there's a lot of mentorship that the older generation can give us. um a lot of the times I say that we are very passionate as as a generation. We A lot of the times people, we do things whether it's for altruistic or for selfish reasons, but we are always pushed to do things. And yes, it is true that we might have the passion for whatever it is, and maybe we might even have the skill sets for whatever it is, but the do we have the experience for it is something that has to be looked at. Um, I think that sometimes when you give your business proposal, for example, to an older person, they are quick to be able to see some of the things that you haven't seen in the work that you brought. You might think you put in all your effort, but through the experience, they would ask you certain questions that will help you realize that no, I didn't think about this thing, or I didn't think about that thing. And so I think that it is, regardless, just by experience, there's a lot that the older generation has to offer. When it comes to community initiatives, I think that the world has come far, and there's been a lot that has been invented by our forefathers and our fathers, and so there's a lot that whatever you was trying to start has been something that was started before and was left along the line, or something that perhaps it is a fresh idea of it or a branch of something. But there's always some knowledge that you can receive from people who are in similar fields, and they can share to improve whatever you're doing. I think if you want to kickstart a community project, you need to realize that there's strength in numbers, and there's strength, and you definitely need human beings. You definitely need man. You definitely need um community supporting as well. There's a like we said before, there's a power that comes with unity. There's a power that comes with the community backing you. And so some of the advantages that a community backing you comes with is the experience of these older generation. And so I think that there's always even if you think that they might not they might push back on what you're doing because they probably don't see your vision, I think that it's still up to you to listen to what they're saying, see where you can address what their issues or their reservations are, and then if you and then based on that you can build or strengthen the initiative that you want to kickstart. And so I think that there's always knowledge and experience from the older generation that can definitely support and improve what you're doing. Another thing about seeking help from the older generation is that they have some link and expertise, something that you would probably have to you find difficulty in maybe getting to speak to somebody, perhaps the older people. Don't forget that some of these people in that whole government spaces were classmates of the older people that you know. And so sometimes even with the call, for example, you can get something across, whereas you would have probably been like had to something that would have taken you a year, for example, would take you 3 months with the help of um older people and that are in these spaces already. And I think that that's one of the power that comes with research and networking, because when you do your research you realize the people that are in these spaces that can help push your initiative. For example, I think that if you want to get something online, for example, you listening to a show like the that one that we are on right now can help you, and finding you on you might not use social media as much, but even if you LinkedIn, the person finds you on LinkedIn and reaches out, they are most likely to get you and get whatever they once heard, as opposed to probably now like drafting a letter and whatever it is to now get the point across. And so there's always an advantage that comes with the older generation and partnership with the older generation. I always say that who are you attached to is a very important question I ask all the time. When people see you, who are you attached to? Who can they speak to if they want to reach out to you? And that's one advantage that comes with partnering with these older folks, because you get to associate yourself with people who have these links that you don't have to do extra work to get some of your ideas or your whatever you want to implement across, because they have those links and experience already. So I think that there's definitely a power that comes with, and even with skill, let's face it, like whatever you want to do, that's why there are junior associates and there are senior associates. The senior associates have a certain experience that the junior associates don't have, and so you build yourself up, you learn and you tap from the senior associates, and then you become a senior associate at some point. When you become a senior associate, you tap in from your manager, and there's a certain experience that your manager, you might think that maybe they are like a desk, you don't see what they do, whatever it is, but you realize that they have something that you can learn from, that you can tap from. And any older person will tell you that they also learn from the younger generation. And so I think that it will be very prideful of you to think that they don't have anything to offer just because they are not in support of your initiative. Still listen to what they have to say. See how you can work on your initiative to better it, to address what they're saying. After all, your initiative is for the community, and they are part of the community as well. And so whatever their reservations are, by listening to it and by trying to find a way to address it and combat the reason why they are reserved, you end up only bettering your idea for even the better good. So I think that definitely there's a space for the older generation, whether it's wisdom, whether it's experience, whether it's the links that they have to support your initiative to make it better.
If you're a young person and you have the experience of having been shut down by an older generation, by a person from the older generation, because they did not support your idea, it's fine. Don't put it up in
Yeah,
your head that everybody is like that. You just need to change your network. Just need
yeah,
to change your network and keep pushing. Keep pushing.
yeah,
Don't allow that one experience to cloud your judgment and
yeah,
make you feel like it's because one person said no, so everybody is going to say no. No,
yeah,
that is the kind of that's the kind of wall that you need to build, the kind
Yeah.
of wall that nobody can break, but
Yeah.
all you want to do is to just associate yourself with better people, with people
Yeah.
that are open-minded, with
Yeah.
people that are willing to correct you and guide
Yeah.
you to make your initiatives better
Yeah.
and not break them down. So
No,
listeners,
true,
you
true.
tuned into. Mhm.
One more thing, sorry to cut you. I just,
No,
when you were
okay.
talking, it came to mind, and I said, you know what, I probably say it. Resistance actually builds perseverance, and builds capacity for whatever you want to do. The thing about it is that if you speak to any successful person, they will tell you that they went through these challenges, they went through these pushbacks, and so those things only make your story sweeter. Imagine this person that, for example, this 7 Up story, because I've mentioned it
Yes,
before. Imagine this person saying, I tried the first time, I couldn't make it. I tried the second time, I had to try the third time. I didn't make it at the third, neither did I make it at the fourth, at the fifth, at the sixth, at the seventh time before I was able to make it. This kind of
yeah,
story is inspiring. But guess what?
yeah,
If they didn't go through it, they wouldn't even have been able to tell the story that they're telling. If they gave up at the sixth time, for example, they wouldn't have made it at the seventh time. So sometimes I think one thing that we also need to learn, and even I am learning as an entrepreneur now, is that these pushbacks only help strengthen you and to build capacity for even bigger challenges that you're gonna face. Right now, maybe you're dealing with $100. You might have to be dealing with tens of thousands of dollars in the future, but the training that you're going through in this with this $100 will build you up for that tens of thousands of dollars that you are going to be using, and you even become a better inspiration for people that are going on all these community initiatives
absolutely.
that you see. Most of the time they were rejected the first time and the second time and the third time, but they pushed and they protested and they fought for what they believed in, and they gathered other people, mobilized other forces to be able to push whatever the idea that they wanted. So I think that pushbacks are even should even be a stepping. Don't even look at them as a stumbling block, but look at them as a stepping stone to improve yourself, to improve your idea, to improve your initiative, so that it's even more solidified. And it also gives you a certain armor for even the bigger battles that you're going to face when you get to implement your idea. Getting head and getting your idea implemented is not the end. While implementing, you're going to face challenges anyway. So I think that it's also um
I think
the thing
facing
is that
challenges is even in the Bible.
yeah.
So
So
it's an order of life. Like
yeah,
you can't go through it
part of the
without.
process.
Yeah, it's part of the
Yeah,
process. So
it's definitely
it's
part of
important that everybody understands that challenges are part of the process.
yeah.
Absolutely. Listeners, you tuned into the Voices of the Millennials, your favorite show on this hour and on this dial, Love Bay Afrobeat Talk Rate. Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. I always get confused sometimes. Yes. And you're listening to us. We are talking about the role of millennials in community development, and we are having so much fun. Our conversations are always inspiring and very motivating. And so, if this is your first time, you're welcome. If you are always here with us, then keep enjoying because we have some little more to go before we end the show. Next, on what we want to discuss, I think that we take a look at what the role of education and skill also plays here when it comes to community development. Education, what you learn, what becomes the foundation or the basis of your initiatives or your drive to be a leader in community development. I think that education helps by teaching critical thinking and problem solving and leadership skills because you definitely need to have like that this leadership skills and problem solving um, idea before you can even think of coming up with an initiative.
Yeah.
As hard as it may sound, it doesn't come to everybody naturally. Not everybody knows how to make initiative. Not everybody is born like a leader, sort of. I mean, some people know how to back people. Some people's skill is to know how to back, how to support somebody in growing an initiative. And it is not a bad thing at all. It's not a bad thing at all. But then I think that education plays a vital, in fact, crucial role when it comes to taking up these community initiatives and leadership. What do you think, Michelle?
Oh, definitely. You can't do anything without dedication behind it. Even the leaders that you say were born leaders have to educate themselves in whatever they're doing. You can't own an organization without any business skills. You can have the charisma for it, but it's gonna crumble because you need to still have certain certain education to be able to like mobilize people, to be able to go forth and ask for funding. To at every stage you need to educate yourself, which is why I tell people that if you think that your education, your university education is not relevant to you, for example, just learn the art of learning, because you need learning. You need to learn, and you need to learn how to unlearn all the time. Like in every step that you're taking, you need to make sure that you learn how to learn, because you will need the education to do whatever you're doing. If you want to kickstart a community development project, for example, fortunately, technology has made it easy. There are lots of templates all around to put your ideas. ChatGPT will write a whole proposal for you. You would even be surprised by the power of AI. But you realize that when you get to these places, for example, people, they value you being able to speak beyond what is just on the paper. They value what are you, how do you flow in conversation. ChatGPT writes the proposal for you, but when you sit in front of the panel and they're asking you and they're questioning you, how do you respond to these? How educated are you? How do you want to be a leader, for example? Are you improving your public speaking, for example? There are different things that you have to educate yourself on, whatever it is, whatever field that you want to create that initiative in. You need to read the historical background for these things. You need to read what the current issues are on these things. You need to read what the stumbling blocks have been. You need to read what the progress has been. You need to read whatever it is. You need to educate yourself on it, because the more educated you are, the easier it is for you to pitch these community development projects, the easier it is for you to implement these community projects, because the more that you know, the easier it is for you to get some of these things across. When you go, before you even go and pitch some of these people, you need to see what the space, and the space is for these people that you are going to pitch into. What appeals to them? For example, you need to educate yourself on these things. So there's no way that you can go and start something without educating yourself. And so I think that a big thing for us young people of our generation is to continuously educate yourself. How do you educate yourself? There's a lot of material online. There's a lot of YouTube videos. There's a lot of older people that you can tap in their wisdom. There's a lot of, even within your church spaces, ask people within your religious circles, within your office circles. Ask away. And based on some of the questions that come, go and read about it. Go back to the reading board and learn about it. Every leader will tell you need to continuously educate yourself. Every look today, like sometimes I look at the internet and I'm like, wow, every day there's something new coming up. Every time there's something new coming up. Like, you can't sit in a gym and not read. You
Yeah.
simply cannot read. Like, every day, like, you need to challenge yourself to read more and to read more. Because I'm like, hey, is it the same 24 hours we have in a day? Because the amount of things that people are able to read a day, the amount of knowledge people are able to acquire a day, it challenges me to even read more as a person. And so I think that
It's the
there's
reason why 24 hours is never enough anymore.
yeah, because now there's just so much you need to tap into. Then and then now when you get some of this knowledge, you need to also challenge this knowledge that you've received, because you realize that there's always sometimes there can be two truths. It doesn't mean that the one you knew was a lie. It just means that it's been improved or there's been a new discovery. So there's always learning to be done. There's always learning to be done, and Mary. So for education, I think that there's always people need to make education and habits. People need to be lifelong learners beyond just the education system. You need to foster that personal practice with education. And look around your circle. Are your friends reading? Are the people you're associated with yourself with, are they reading? Are they pushing? Are they educating themselves? Because sometimes you might not know something, but the circle that you're in forces you to educate you to know about something, or to go and read more about something. So I think education is definitely a key when it comes to community development.
So having said all of this,
Yeah.
what are the skills that are essential for every millennial to effectively lead, community initiatives or projects? I'm thinking digital literacy
Yeah.
is number one.
Yeah, definitely. I think that as well. I think also just educating yourself on whatever applications there are, whatever spaces are currently there that are already fostering whatever community development initiative that you want to have, whatever local community societies are there. For example, if you want to start a business, there are a lot of entrepreneur spaces, local entrepreneur spaces. Also educating yourself um, on what is being done at the local, national, international level. Also utilizing these softwares that are around to help make life easier for you. Because what's the point in struggling to make a business proposal, for example, when you have softwares that support you to do that? But and also tapping into the knowledge of the experienced people, like we said before, and also just having building a certain community that helps push you and encouraging you when times get tough. I always say support systems are something that we need to acknowledge is so important, because the going gets tough. But which people are you surrounding yourself with to push you that, oh, maybe this thing you need to look at this other way when you're going down and you're complaining? Are the people also complaining with you, or are they also helping you find ways to get out of your emotions and to push forward, to push more? And so I think that um definitely educating yourself on whatever you're trying, community initiative that you're trying to build. Look at the history, look at the present, look at what the future is looking like. Educating yourself on utilizing the technology that is available to you, tapping into the wisdom of the experienced people, and then utilizing the local what's it called, local spaces, national spaces, international spaces that are there, and just guarding up yourself with values such as perseverance, consistency, commitment, hard work. The cliche, the things that the values that you think are cliche, those actually do help support and to push when it comes to these leadership in these community development initiatives, and also building the skills that you need, practical skills that you need when it comes to these things. Is it public speaking? Is it
Like,
is it
yeah,
yeah, is
like
it
communication. You were saying
communicating?
that
Yeah.
you should be able to, pitch. If you
Yeah.
have an idea, you've gotten the opportunity, you should be able to,
Yeah.
articulate whatever it is that you are going.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if chat gtp wrote the proposal for you, like you were saying, you should be able to answer the questions that follow right after.
Yeah.
Also, if you really want to take on community projects or community initiatives, then you should be able to have some skill in project management. Because
Yeah.
if you are lucky, you get the opportunity to do this, you should be able to handle the project like a pro, knowing exactly what to do and at the right time and in a way that you can be accountable for it
Yeah.
as you go in the journey. Also, the ability to think globally
Yeah.
but act locally.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that, unfortunately, in some parts of the world, people are exposed to other parts of the country. Like, for example, our African leaders, let me just say, they get the opportunity to go outside the country, see all of the developmental projects and all of the things that are happening in other parts of the world in their communities. And the thought or the wish would be that, some of these initiatives are translated locally by they initiating what they have seen, but it's usually not the case for our parts of the country. Even though
Yeah.
they've seen it all and they've experienced it all. Unfortunately, our local communities don't get to enjoy this, but that's a different conversation for the politicians to have. But I mean, yeah, for a change, as a millennial, if you ever decide to take on initiatives and projects, I think that you should use the experiences that you have seen, especially of better places, to be able to locally bring in projects that will also, make your community a better place to be. Also, emotional intelligence, it's also a skill.
Yeah.
Because, like we were saying, somebody may refuse your project idea and it might affect you and make you give up, but you need to build that resilience, protect your emotions and be
Yeah.
able to move on past all the negativity and just keep at bettering whatever idea that you have, so that in the end you'll be the winner, just like the 7 Up story. It's actually a very inspiring story. I'll be putting it
Yeah.
down to tell my kids.
Yeah. No, no, definitely, definitely a good one. Just quickly to piggyback on what you were saying, when you said gaining certain skills, even if you don't have those skills or you are not pro in it, tap into your community of people who have those skills. I think that's also being a better leader, being able to identify people who are really good in certain things that you are not as good as in, and tapping into those to be able to make yourself or make your project better is definitely like a huge thing. Community projects are never a one-man thing, and so tapping into those different skills, allocating work, delegating work, all that also makes you better. So even if you don't have those skills, just tap into the resources around you and utilize the resources that are around you, um to make your foster your and promote your community development initiative. Yeah.
So as we wrap up the show, what does the future hold for community development with millennials at the helm of affairs? Your last thoughts.
I think there's a lot of hope. I want people to remember that there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of resources now more than ever. I think that realizing that there's space for your voices to be heard, for your ideas to be heard, and there's also space for implementation. There's a lot of resources around, and so tap into those and improve yourself to be able to improve your project. For the older people, I want to say that encourage them to not only listen to young people, but find partners in young people to implement some of these community initiatives. We've moved from the space of young people are just fresh ideas, are bringing young blood to the table. We want to see more partnerships and more involvement in implementation when it comes to young people. We are gaining a lot of skill. There's a lot of potential in these young people. And if we think that they might not be, I guess, skilled enough to be partners, then pick them as your mentees, train them, and while also seeing what they have to offer and work hand in hand with them to make these communities a better place. But I think for both young people, millennials, and for the older generation, there is definitely a better space for young people when it comes to community development to make it a better place for us all.
And so for us on Love Bay and from the voices of the millennials right here, where we give the platform for young individuals with good initiatives to keep pushing, keep staying on the right path. We say that for us, community development or the future of community development will be more tech driven, decentralized, and collaborative. That is all that we want our community to be: tech driven, decentralized, and collaborative, because we have a lot of ideas that we want to push out there, and we need your collaborations more, especially to be able to hold us down and help us walk through these journeys. Thank you so much for joining us on another informative, exciting, inspiring episode of the Voices of the Millennials right here on Love Bay Radio. Thank you so much, Michelle, for always coming
Always a
through
pleasure.
and joining us right here to discuss have these very insightful discussions. My name is Annamaria Amissah, your regular host. Many thanks for joining us every Wednesday, and we will be sure to bring you another exciting episode next week. Don't miss out on it. Thank you and have a lovely evening.